If you are watching this video, it means that the Los Angeles Lakers have predictably been eliminated in the second round by the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is interesting because when the Celtics got eliminated and I was getting my jokes off, I had someone tweet me like, oh, it's funny that the Lakers made it further than Boston, and he's been talking shit about the Lakers. And two things there. Yeah, the Lakers made it further. They beat a Rockets team in 6 without Kevin Durant, so congratulations. But then the second thing was I had to really think hard. Like, I did NBA TV this year. I made videos. I was like, when did I talk shit about the Lakers? My takes were pretty consistent. I said A, I never thought their defense was at a championship level, and B, Aiden is not a championship center, DeAndre Ayton. I felt like those two things were consistent, Luka or no Luka, which we'll talk a little bit about that, because being that the Oklahoma City Thunder did end up missing Jalen Williams, I did at least think it would have been a little more interesting with Doncic. Obviously, that's more points, that's more, or another dynamic for the team when he's missing. It's like missing an entire part of your offensive engine. And for the Thunder not having J-Dub, there goes some transition, there goes like a big wing defender that would have been important there. So we're never going to know what that series looked like, but obviously when you talk about the playoffs or you talk about the future, you think about health. And I thought healthy, it was always a pipe dream that the Lakers were going to contend and beat the Thunder or Spurs healthy to get out of the West. I didn't think that was a crazy take, but we're here now and we're both in the offseason. And this is where I kind of want to give props to LA, because the Lakers team that we came into this year watching, and obviously LeBron was not on that team for a long time, but you had a lot of switches, you had a lot of different injuries throughout the next part of the year. Like the second half, you saw Braun playing that third option role, and they did get better defensively. As a team, as the year went on, you saw less mistakes. I think you saw better schemes. And that is important for this offseason, because the first half of most of these games, and I'm recording this before game 4, so just the 3 that have happened so far, they're down 3-0. They're not going to overcome a 3-0 deficit unless there's massive injuries. Yeah, they played well in the first half. They shot really well in the first half. In game 1, they flat out played well enough that if they had stolen it, we wouldn't have been surprised. Shea had one of his worst games, one of his worst playoff games of his career turnover-wise. And overall, Luka or no Luka, both versions of that team looked better down the stretch than you would have imagined probably like in January, December. And to me, the reason this is all important is because we've been talking about what is Los Angeles going to do. They traded for Luka Doncic last season, and then LeBron picked up his player option, but there were no talks of an extension, no successful talks, and so they had his replacement on the roster without being able to build the roster fully for him, which, as you see, again, Luka injuries are not really uncommon, and as he gets older, that does open another interesting conversation. But you look at the pieces you have right now, and the fact that you might not be able to make too many changes quickly picks up importance. So what do I mean by that? Let's just go ahead and start with the elephant in the room, the $52 million elephant from this season. It's now clear. We don't know if he's retiring, it feels unlikely, but who knows? We don't know what he's thinking. I feel like it's been very common throughout the year to feel like he's not going to come back to LA, because why would either of them really want that for basketball reasons right now? But then my question for both sides becomes, what really are your better basketball reasons to do something else? We'll talk about the salary sheet, but first, just the upcoming free agent class. Pay attention to the player options here, because not everyone listed here currently is already an unrestricted free agent, but this is a listing of who either is one or could be one, and you ask yourself, what really is the plan for a team that might think they're close, or they need to build a better team around their cornerstone, and they need a few pieces to do so? Is there really a ton here that feels like it's going to get the job done? When, by the way, we are going to get to this right here, trust me. And so you're not limited to free agency. We know teams make trades, teams get involved in 3-team deals. But all right, let's just table this for a second. We know this is a conversation. You have an expiring in Rui, who just shot lights out in the postseason. Luke Kennard, you acquired through trade. 11 from Maxey, see ya. DeAndre's got a player option for $8 million, Mr. Dominating himself. Marcus Smart, who's one of the biggest facets of this specific build's defense, $5.3 million option. And by the time I get to the bottom of this, I feel like you, in your mind, have already realized LA is kind of in a similar position that they've been in. The thing that happened right after the 2021 run, where LeBron James got injured, they didn't really get to try to repeat, not faithfully anyways. They go and make business very complicated by trying to form a super team with Russell Westbrook. And ever since then, that build with LeBron and AD was just kind of in a rock and a hard place. They didn't have too many ways to get significantly better. That's why the Luka trade was such a saving grace. They looked stuck and all of a sudden, wow, here's Luka at midnight. But now we're heading into another Laker year, and what are the pieces on this sheet that can really net them something? What is super valuable here that will change their situation very quickly? You quickly begin to realize if LeBron wants to come back to LA and do a retirement tour, that might be the move on the Lakers side. And for LeBron, where is he gonna go? I think the immediate answer everyone had always come up with in their head is Cleveland, but they have another situation they have to take care of. Assuming they get eliminated, there's going to be some real conversations we'll get to. But either way, the business has never made full sense for Bron to go to Cleveland. It could happen, but it's not as easy as just some fairy tale that he's supposed to go back, so he does go back. I've long thought the Golden State Warriors are going to call him. It makes a lot of sense given they don't have a lot of ways to make the end of the Steph era really close in a magical way. That's one that they can try. But as of today, we don't really have a good indication of what is going to happen. And honestly, for the Lakers, regardless of what happens, they have a lot of other decisions to make. Decisions like what to do with this Austin Reaves extension talk that's about to come up, because this is a player option and he has outplayed this value. The playoffs are not a great, well, these specific playoffs are not a great barometer, being that he kind of came back last second. He clearly hasn't been 100%. But nonetheless, that doesn't affect how I feel or have felt about this conversation, because when you hear the totals, it is potentially in that mid 200 mil range. Oh man, look, aside from the fact I just don't believe Austin Reaves to a team provides that much value, like as in that number, you extending him in that manner makes him Luka's number 2 going forward pretty much. Save for some other completely unforeseen situation right now. Funny enough, it feels a lot like when we were assessing the Brunson and Doncic situation, because Brunson had clearly shown he was very valuable right before he was due for an extension. But the immediate issue, aside from the fact we just knew he was going to New York, it did kind of feel like, well, is Jalen Brunson the guy that's going to be next to Luka when they win it all? And if he's not, and you pay him this, it could make the future very difficult. Now, we know the future played out in a way we never would have imagined. But regardless, for the Lakers, you do have to ask yourself what life looks like when you are paying Austin Reaves a lot more than this per year next to Luka Doncic and trying to fill out a team for Luka with, at that point, his right-hand man also not being a defender, being paid as if he's either a franchise guy or right next to it. And quiet is kept. It's crazy to be having these combos because it feels like Luka just got here, but this is the season we are entering. This is the season before his player option. So there is a lot of pressure to make some ground in 2027 or make some serious headway, because you already know when you get to 28 and guys haven't committed to an extension or there hasn't been significant progress, you know that this is the year where those conversations start if you haven't already signed one. And Luka's 26 years old. He never thought he was leaving Dallas, we have to remember. While I'm sure LA has been cool, another first or second round out in 27 with a team that hasn't made serious progress does make you wonder. But again, there's a lot of player options in 28 around the league, so we can't project anything that far ahead. I'm just saying the Austin Reaves contract is really, really important to the future. So those are really the two main things for the Lakers, and hopefully I've demonstrated that 2027 is not just another year where I know we're saying, yeah, Bron can have his retirement tour and he can just sign there and they can call it. That seems like it, if you were just putting it on a chart, that feels the most likely because of the business, but A, the NBA is a weird business and we don't know what's going to happen. And also B, 27 is not that type of year that you want to just chalk up and just hope for the best. So whenever you figure out what's happening with those two, here is the pick bank. They have a pick this year, that's whatever. Don't have one in 27. They go back to having one in 28. Do not have one in 2029. Once again, Luka's option year. Then you start the 30s with all your own. So the Lakers for probably the next 2 years, I would imagine, are going to be a part of these big shakeup talks. It's kind of like how I said for the Denver Nuggets. They need to have their ears to whatever is happening this summer with all these different stars that are supposed to change places, or whatever contract situation is going on with the star in their franchise. They need to have their ear to it just in case there's something they can do. And LA is in really the same position. While the second half of this year is encouraging, this sheet to me looks like really just residual of them being stuck earlier in the decade, and they rounded it out into something decent here, and you got a big boost with Austin Reaves turning out to be way better than I think most people would have imagined he was going to be. But you don't have an awful lot of picks, you don't have an awful lot of trade value, and this summer, regardless of cap space, there's only so much you can really hope for, especially assuming LeBron doesn't come back and now you are minus an important player. This front office has got to do the absolute best they can to position themselves to have an upward trend for the next 2 seasons. But mind you, this is Los Angeles. They have miracles fall into their laps. That's how LeBron got here in the first place. It's how Luka got here. It's how Gasol got there. This franchise, they could be dead in the water. The face of their franchise could retire. They could be stuck for so long, and here comes another GOAT. Look, they're never actually dead, okay? Just beware. My one final note here is just going back to Luka being 26 years old. Remember, his physicals are constantly a topic of conversation. He got in really good shape this year, but then a hamstring gets pulled. I'm pretty sure a hamstring or calf was the end of his run in Dallas. That finals the year before, he was hampered with some injury. And once again, his shape has been a point of emphasis for a while. This is probably the best he's looked. And already he's nowhere near as athletic as he was at the beginning of his career. We forget Luka's actual professional career spans a good bit further than the NBA. So I'm just saying all that to say there is nothing guaranteed for either side. And on top of those talks constantly being a thing for your franchise guy, defense is still a conversation. I saw Chris Move get absolutely blitzed about Luka Doncic's defensive takes on Twitter, and it was because of the tape he used. But I guess the argument was that he had improved and gotten better. Okay, cool. The larger picture right now is Luka Doncic is not a two-way superstar that typically teams win championships with, especially when they're guards. You've seen centers kind of get away with it. Perimeter guys typically don't. So kudos to the improvements made, but that is still the overarching topic is still important to the future for him and for the Lakers, who have to build him a pretty different team than this to go all the way. Which, as I say that, I am wondering if there is a thought in the front office of, oh, if we would have had Luka this run. And again, I circle back to the beginning. Obviously would have helped, especially with the Thunder down J-Dub, but it could have also given OKC a matchup advantage on their end. But I'm not going to play the what if game with the actual matchup. Right now, it's about their offseason. So let me know what you think they're going to do, what's going to happen with Braun, Austin Reaves, and the Lakers as a whole in the comment section below. Also, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications every time a new video drops. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.